Coming up on this week's show, we have the dynamic writing duo of Devon McCormack and Riley Hart.
Welcome to the Big Gay Fiction Podcast, the show for readers and writers of gay romance fiction. If you can read it, write it, watch it, or listen to it, these two guys are going to talk about it. Now, here are your hosts, Jeff Adams and Will Knaus.
Welcome to episode 112 of Jeff and Will's Big Gay Fiction Podcast. I'm Jeff from JeffAdamsWrites.com.
And I'm Will from WillKnaus.com. This week's episode is brought to you in part by listeners just like you. We'll have more information on how you can help support this show in just a few minutes. Welcome back, everyone, and welcome back to you, sir.
Thank you, and welcome to you.
This week was a bit troublesome.
A little bit.
Mere moments after we finished shooting last week's episode and talked about the near-death experience that our computer had, the computer on which we do absolutely everything associated with this particular program. Mere moments after we finished recording that episode, we learned of a bit of a website problem. Mm-hmm. Do you want to fill in the listeners?
So everything we do is based on WordPress, the 4 sites that we've got. And there was an update that was made last week that rendered the theme that we use, which essentially powers how the website looks, rendered it useless. Not from a front-end perspective, so everybody who might have gone to look at the site on Sunday didn't see a problem, and I hadn't seen problems since those updates happened, like, back on Friday. Until I went to do show notes for last week's show, and it's like, I couldn't do anything. So not only did I make a podcast last week, I also reinvented 2 of the 4 websites on Sunday, because your website was the pilot to see what was going to happen when I started taking everything apart, and then I of course had to do the website for the podcast as well. Mm-hmm. Chaos on Sunday, and then over the course of the week I kind of retrofitted the other sites as well. So yeah, it was a busy website week over here in Jeff and Will land. Yeah.
Yes, you also happened to finish Winger 3.
Yes, the edits, the revisions for that are done. I still have a week before I have to turn it in to Harmony Inc., so I'll be polishing a bit more over the coming days, but I'm pleased that it's done. I went from I hate this book to back to loving the book, which was good. And I'm really pleased with how Dragon Dictation worked for that book. I'd say probably 85% of the book was actually done on dictation. And, well, I think I tended to overwrite because I certainly had about 20,000 words more than I needed. And needed might be the wrong word. The other 2 Winger books are right around 60K, just a touch over 60,000. And this one ended at, I think it was like 85,000, did I say? I think, somewhere in there. Mm-hmm. And I actually trimmed back most of those words. I don't know if it was the dictation that did it, or if I just had more story in my head than I really needed, but most of it was I was starting chapters too early. And it took like 1,000 words per chapter to actually get to the story that needed to be in that chapter, if that makes sense. And I think, we talk about that all the time, the right place to start a chapter.
Yeah. And
apparently I have to babble for a little bit before I actually get to where that should be.
Perfectly okay.
Yes.
So, okay, well, congratulations on completing that.
Thank you.
We also have some big news on the co-writing front. This coming week, the hockey player's Hart is going to be doing the cover reveal. It's coming December 1st.
Yes, which is Friday.
On the Love Bytes Reviews website.
Yes, we're very happy to be on Love Bytes because, of course, that's run by our contributor, Danny. And we'll be showing off the cover that we love.
Oh, yes.
Very much.
Yes, we do.
And we'll have a nice little giveaway sitting there, too. So go to Love Bytes on the 1st. It should be right there on the homepage. We'll certainly be putting that out on our social media, so you can check it out that way as well.
Cool.
Yeah. Something else going on Friday, December 1st. A bunch of LGBT romance authors have banded together to create the Rainbow Advent Calendar, which will run December 1st through 24th with a new story available each day. Now, we heard about this because a friend of the podcast, VL Losi, in her newsletter, she talked about it this past week. She's offering the best gift as part of the Advent Calendar, which is going to feature Victor Kalinsky, who was in the Point Shot trilogy, which I loved. So I'm looking for that story for sure. But again, December 1st through 24th, you can go to alexjane.info/rainbow-advent-calendar-2017 for all the details. Each new story will show up there on that day, and you'll also be able to see the past ones. It's all a big secret. Other than VL, I don't know the other authors who are participating in this trilogy. I would assume Alex is, since it's on Alex's website. So it'll be kind of a mystery to see what shows up there each day. So you can go to alexjane.info or just hit the link in the show notes to see what shows up each day.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Now, more news on holiday giveaways. Our holiday paperback giveaway is still going on. There are 2 weeks left to hop in and join the Rafflecopter for this really fantastic prize pack that the prize pack comprises of, is that the correct word?
The prize package is made up of, comprises is a good word, but
The prize pack is comprised of 3 paperbacks from P.D. Singer's Mountain series. And just a quick note, this is only for our U.S. listeners. All you have to do is go to biggayfictionpodcast.com/holiday to get your chance to win. And the giveaway runs through December 10th.
Yes.
Okay? We'll have a little bit more information on that giveaway later in the show.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we want to, this is the point in the show where we thank all of our beloved Patreon supporters. Mm-hmm. This week, we want to welcome Laura.
Hi, Laura.
Thank you for joining us on Patreon, Laura. Now, you can help support the Big Gay Fiction Podcast with a monthly pledge through Patreon. For as little as 25 cents an episode, your pledge helps pay for the cost of producing and distributing this podcast. And for fans who pledge at the silver and gold levels, you'll have the exclusive opportunity to ask questions of our upcoming guests. Now, all patrons also have the option to have a personalized thank you sent directly to them. Now, any month that we have pledges that cover our monthly production costs, we'll produce a special bonus show, especially for our patrons. And the December one's going to be coming up pretty soon, before we know it.
I know, because, December starts on Friday.
I know. Crazy. So, you can get all the details on how to join us on Patreon. All you have to do is go to patreon.com/biggayfictionpodcast. That's patreon.com/biggayfictionpodcast.
Your favorite new YA hero has arrived with Tracker Hacker by Jeff Adams, the first book in the Codename Winger series. At 16, Theo Reese is the youngest agent for tactical operational support. His way with computers makes him invaluable. He designs new gadgets, helps agents, including his parents, in the field, and works to keep the TOS network safe. But when a hacker breaches the system TOS uses to track agents, Theo is put to the test like never before. Thrust from behind the safety of his desk, Theo must go into the field to put a stop to the hack. He's scared, but resolved because one of the missing agents is his father. And just to make it more interesting, he has to keep everything a secret from his boyfriend and teammates. Can Theo get the job done, save his dad, and make things good with his boyfriend? Find out in Tracker Hacker by Jeff Adams, available in ebook and paperback from Harmony Ink Press, Amazon.com, and other online retailers.
So the reading frenzy continued this week. I think it's fair to say that was both of us, because we both have a fair number of books to talk about. We'll start off with one that we both read, A Home for the Holidays by Joe Cosentino.
Yes. This story is a really wonderful short holiday story, and it concerns Bobby. He is a nice guy from the U.S., and he's studying to be a lawyer, and he's sent to the glamorous, beautiful island of Capri to spend the holidays with his Italian relatives. And his third cousin, Paolo, is sort of the designated tour guide, and Paolo shows Bobby around the island and all that it has to offer. And while they are playing tourist, they kind of fall for one another. At first glance, Paolo seems to be sort of a prototypical laissez-faire Italian guy. He's, gorgeous. He loves, good food and family, and, and he doesn't like, too many attachments in his life. But as Bobby and Paolo get to know one another, they realize that there's a lot more going on beneath the surface. Specifically with Paolo, he is an excellent artist, and he has dreams of becoming a designer. What did you think of this story?
I thought it was just a delight. It's like the perfect little holiday nugget, like a
Nugget.
a little Christmas cookie, if you will.
Exactly.
It's just delightful. Right. I liked the evolution in this rather short time span of Paulo in particular. I thought he had some really nice growth, discovering his dreams, and they both ended up bringing something out from the other as their relationship grew. Bobby was, I would say, rather... I can't decide what word I'm after here.
I don't know what word. I can't help you there.
He was. I felt like he was rather just immersed in his studies. That's a good way to go. He was all about being the lawyer. He didn't even want to go to Italy because he needed to study for the bar over the holidays. And being around Paulo, I think, helped him see the world a little bit more.
Yeah, definitely.
From just inside of his law books. And he managed to bring out that Paulo could be more than just a stock boy at his family's company. Because his family, I thought his family were a little bit of a jerk periodically. They were really nice to Bobby, but Paulo was like, oh, you're just the stock boy. Just go be the stock boy. And it's like, boo on you, family. But yeah, I thought it was a delight. It's the first book I've read of Joe's. We did the audio. We both did the audio, which featured narration from Joel Leslie, and I thought Joel just nailed it completely.
We both highly recommend A Home for the Holidays by Joe Cosentino with excellent voice work by Joel Leslie. We highly recommend that you either check out the ebook or the audiobook. They're both wonderful. Yeah. It's also worth noting that there's a sequel coming. The Perfect Gift arrives December 13th, and we have already one-clicked that one.
Yes, we have.
It's we saw that. Just click. It's the continuation of Bobby and Paulo's story here in the U.S., and we can't wait for that.
Yeah, that's going to be good.
Very much looking forward to that. Okay, next, I want to talk about Santa's Naughty Helper by Armie McKay. Now, this is another short novella. This one concerns a nice guy, Kevin. He works at a law firm. And as is the usual tradition in offices across the country, there is a secret Santa gift exchange. And they're going to exchange gifts at the holiday party. This particular office has decided to have the holiday party earlier in December, just as a little treat for everyone, and plus things get really crazy around the holidays. So Kevin is assigned the task of being the secret Santa of his nice office pal, Eric. And the problem is that Kevin has had a crush on Eric for quite some time. And he doesn't really know how to maybe take their friendship to the next level. Because he's really worried that they have really good, I don't know, like lawyer chemistry?
Colleague chemistry?
Okay, maybe that's a better word for it, because Eric is sort of the outgoing litigator, and Kevin is sort of like the behind-the-scenes researcher.
Okay.
And they're a really great team, and he feels that, if he kind of expresses his interest, that it might screw up their work relationship. So, he figures that this secret Santa exchange might be the perfect way to sort of test the waters and see if Eric is open to the idea of a relationship. So, on the day of the party, he gets Eric a bottle of his favorite wine and includes a little note. And what Kevin is going to do is he's going to sort of play the 12 days of Christmas. Each day is going to be a new little present. To kind of show, not only show Kevin's interest, but how, I think he's using their established friendship to sort of show that he really kind of gets who Eric is. So as the days go on and the gifts sort of progress, it's pretty obvious that Eric is like open to the idea of this flirtatious secret Santa. Because every day, kind of, Kevin goes into his office and he's like, so, what's your gift today? What do you think? And and as the 12 days progress, the gifts actually get a little naughtier. And until the big reveal is going to happen on Christmas Eve, and Kevin asks Eric out to dinner. And as it turns out, Eric is perfectly happy going on a date with Kevin. He's been thinking this the entire time. In fact, he was actually a little bit worried that, the Secret Santa might be someone else in the office when he really wanted it to be Kevin all along. So I really enjoyed this story. It's super cute and a little bit naughty. So I highly recommend Santa's Naughty Helper by Armie McKay.
Cool. I'll have to pick that one up. That one sounds nice. I often like the 12 Days of Christmas theme and a holiday story to draw people out of their shell at the holiday time.
Okay.
So I spent time in Italy quite a bit this past couple of weeks.
Yes.
With the books I read. I picked up Call Me By Your Name by Andre Aicman, which you reviewed back in episode 110 and were mixed on.
Yes.
Here's my thing. So the story, for those who missed in 110, just ever so briefly, is this relationship that happens over a summer between Elio and Oliver. Elio lives in Italy with his parents. He's 17, and his family often hosts visiting academics and writers. And Oliver is the visitor for the summer, and they have a friendship that evolves into a little bit more, and that's the bulk of the book. And then there's also chapters at the end. Well, I say chapters. I'm not sure there was ever a chapter break in this book. There is story at the end that deals with them as adults as well. You mentioned that it was very literary, which it is. I actually don't know if I could have read this as a book. I very much enjoyed
I don't know.
actor guy.
Oh, yes.
Okay, now
I'm totally blanking on his
Armie
name.
Hammer.
Thank you.
We are bad today.
Ugh,
the words just aren't there.
Not working. Okay.
Armie Hammer's reading of it was outstanding. In the movie, he plays Oliver, and here he's reading as Elio, but it worked so well. And he wrapped all those very literary things that happened into a palatable format for my ear that I just don't know that I would have done on the page. There's a lot of wonderful scenes in this story and events that occur, and Elio's a very articulate 17-year-old, although I'm sure all this is meant to be like him looking back in general at the events of his life from an older point of view, which is why some of this gets so literary, because most 17-year-olds don't talk like this. Overall, I liked it a lot. I do look forward to the film, which we found out we actually get in our part of the world in middle January. So yeah, Call Me By Your Name. It is literary. I would recommend going with the audio, for sure.
Okay. You also read something else this week.
I did. I was very excited to read this book. We've known Kris Jacen for a number of years because she is the editor-in-chief of MLR Press and has for many years considered herself to be only an editor. But she's recently released Wait For Me, which is a delightful novella. Really great to see someone who didn't consider themselves to ever be a writer to come forward with a great first story. So Wait For Me deals with the story of soldier Jeff Mackie McNamara and a child care director, Scott Ash. So these two meet at a wedding for one of Jeff's very good friends. Scott is in the role of bartender this evening because he's filling in for somebody. But his day job is actually being the director of a daycare center. And he's also got a social work degree. So occasionally he's doing call-outs for Child Protective Services as well, when necessary. And that's actually how these two bond even more. They talk a little bit at the wedding, but then the day after the wedding, Jeff finds a child abandoned near the base and takes that child to the hospital. And Scott ends up making the call-out to see what's up with the child. And they also bond over Jeff's dog, Dix, who's a retired military working dog that Jeff has adopted. These two make the most adorable couple as they get to know each other. Jeff is very skittish about getting into a relationship because he's about to deploy in a month or 6 weeks. So the timing is very short for them to decide, are they going to date? Should they date? Is it going to be worth dating? But their attraction is so much that they are essentially just drawn together and they really can't separate themselves. Jeff has an amazing support system. The supporting characters in this book are so good because it's Jeff's tight friends that he's made over multiple deployments through the years. The heptad, as they're called, because there's 7 of them, really take care of each other. They take care of each other's families while the others are deployed. That's really special, seeing how all that works. And for a short story, this book does cover quite a long period of time, because it does go through Jeff's deployment and looks at how Jeff and Scott maintain their relationship through the months that he's gone, with only R&R kind of stuck in the middle of it, halfway through the deployment. I've never read a military book, I don't think, before. Mm-hmm. So it was really interesting to me to see how all this worked, and I believe most of it is quite accurate because Kris was a military spouse for some 19 years, so she knows this topic really well. I recommend it in its entirety. I look forward to what she's doing next because I know there's a sequel coming here that involves 2 other people who we meet in this book. So big thumbs up to Kris on her first outing as an author, and I look forward to much more.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. To wrap up the reading palooza, I want to quickly talk about Up for the Challenge by Devon McCormack and Riley Hart. Now, Up for the Challenge is the story of straight guy, I'm using air quotes, Ethan, who goes to a gay bar with some colleagues, and that evening, as he's leaving the club, he is mugged in the alleyway, and he is saved by nice guy Sean. And thus begins the relationship. I really enjoyed this book an awful lot. This is essentially a story of 2 bi guys who challenge one another, hence the title. Their interactions are so interesting. They're both kind of essentially alpha males who don't really budge on much of anything. And the way that they challenge each other through really snappy banter is fun to read, but also I think something that kind of bonds them and pulls the relationship forward is that they call each other on their shit. I think from like the very first moment, they kind of see each other. They get one another. Both of them have suffered some great loss, so that's something that they have in common, and something that I think in like romance terms, they're both damaged, and they both innately understand what it's like to be coming from a place of hurt and pain. Now that I'm saying that, I don't want you to think this is like a really heavy downer book. It actually isn't. It's really funny. It's super sexy. This is a Devon and Riley book, so you know they're going to have crazy banging sex. In fact, there's a rather hilarious moment. Sean essentially shows Ethan the ropes of gay sex, and Ethan is sort of cannot actually fathom that no one has ever revealed the secret of the magic button before. So I really enjoy Ethan and Sean. They have great chemistry. A really terrific book. Super quick, I want to mention there are some wonderful secondary characters, primarily Sean's family. They're really wonderful, really funny. Also, towards the end of the book, there is a hospital sequence in this story. And when I got to that point in the book, it's like almost at like 90%. I mean, usually we should be wrapping things up and everyone should be living happily ever after. But no, we get this really traumatic hospital sequence. And at first I was like, what kind of manipulative This Is Us bullshit is this? I was like really mad. But then, like 3 pages later, I was like, why? Why can't they be together? Why? So, kudos to you, Devon and Riley, for completely manipulating my emotions. It worked really well. And they, of course, there's a happily ever after. It is a romance after all. So I highly recommend Up for the Challenge by Devon and Riley. You should all go check it out. Hiking through the woods in search of the perfect Christmas tree. Sipping homemade hot cocoa in front of a crackling fire. Enjoying the company of gathered friends and loved ones.
It's definitely the most wonderful time of year, and we've got the books that will keep you turning pages on those long winter nights.
Announcing the Big Gay Fiction Podcast's Happy Holiday Paperback Giveaway.
We're giving you a chance to win 3 terrific books from the Mountain series by author P.D. Singer.
The prize pack includes paperback copies of Snow on the Mountain, Fall Down the Mountain, and Return to the Mountain.
To enter, go to the show notes page for this episode at biggayfictionpodcast.com or visit the official giveaway page at biggayfictionpodcast.com/holiday.
If you can't get enough of stories filled with love, self-discovery, and the great outdoors, then you're not going to want to miss this. Go to biggayfictionpodcast.com/holiday before the rafflecopter ends on Sunday, December 9th.
So I'm excited to finally bring this interview. We've been sitting on it for about a month. We talked to Devon and Riley at GRL, and we had the best time with them, I think.
Oh, yeah. This is a super fun interview. Being able to sit down with the both of them in the same room and sort of just talk about, you know, who they are as writers and their process and all that good stuff. It was a fantastic time.
So we're here in Denver as GRL ends, and we're with Devon McCormack and Riley Hart. Thank you guys for coming on the show.
Thank you
for having us. Yes.
We've wanted to have you guys for ever.
Yeah, we talked about it.
We did, yeah. I remember last year.
I think last year.
Yes,
we kept saying,
and then
we'll do
we spoke
something.
at RT too.
Yeah. And now we captured you. We kidnapped them and brought them to our room so we could talk to them.
Yeah. We had to run an awful long way here. We got there and talked to them. But yeah.
So for those who don't know, briefly introduce yourselves to us. We'll start with you, Riley.
I'm Riley Hart. I write contemporary romance, and been doing that for a few years. I write both by myself and with Devon, and I also write under the name Narrated and by myself and with Christina Lee.
You're a busy girl.
I am a busy girl.
And Devon, what about you?
I'm Devon McCormack, and I also write gay romance, and I also write some gay erotica and some young adult titles, and just gross things in general. Not because of the gay part, though. Edit. But now I've lost my train of thought. I started writing in 2013, and I started writing with Riley in 2016, August of 2000, or well, technically writing.
July.
July of 2016, and I haven't been able to stop since.
Cool. How did you two connect and decide to start?
Let me start that.
I was like, what I actually wanted to start.
We have, technically still have the same publisher for our YA books, and I had reached out initially, I'd read Charade, which was an Iridon book, and at the time, there weren't many authors being taken on by Harmony Inc. So, when one, it was 2 authors every 3 months, so it was easy to go and be oh, hey, how's it going? We just kind of welcoming on board, because some other authors had done that for me, and I thought it was very nice. And then we just would chat occasionally, and at first it was just infrequently, I would say. But then we started chatting more and more. We just agreed about a lot of things, and I'll let her take it from here. But it's funny to me.
No, we were that's like he was saying. We just talked more and more, and we just got along really well. And I was just our chemistry. I just really wanted to write with him, and so I asked him one day, just to see what he said. Have you ever considered co-authoring with anyone? And he said, if it's with you, what are we writing and when are we going to start? And there we went.
Because then Friday Art's going to ask you if you co-write, you're like, yes, I suddenly do. But actually, it was crazy because I think I'd never done that before, so I was I think for me it was kind of going to just be an experiment. What was the worst that could happen? We find out that it doesn't click and then stop?
Because we said that, even if we're halfway through it or whatever, if
and
it's
not
working for one of us or we don't, we stop and that's it.
And
no
but no obligation. And we've always said that friendship comes first, writing comes second. So.
That's very cool. Had you read each other's work?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd read mostly Night Ray at the time. I just hadn't read a Riley Hart book by then, and I was even thinking when we were talking about it that we were still talking about her because that's how I knew you primarily.
No, yeah, because he knew me.
Like she'd only
so
come out as Riley
that.
recently before that, I think, and
Close to a year.
right, it had been a year.
Almost.
Okay.
Like
well,
9 months.
9 months like a baby. Oh my god. But no, like I'd mostly read like Rush was the big MM one from Nair, and I loved Rush, and so at the time, yeah, that was her. But I mean, obviously loved the style, loved how it was written. She's a brilliant writer, so.
And you read my MF stuff. I mean, you had read, yeah.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, absolutely. I read like those were delicious too. But but how long? When was Charade?
2012.
You got together under the guise of Harmony Inc. authors. Is there a YA co-author out there somewhere for you guys, or
not yet?
Mm-mm.
Interesting.
We both have kind of taken, like, I feel like we both really love YA, we will write YA, but we both have the project that we were inspired to write. Like, we both know our schedule probably for the next 7 months, just because we have these projects we have to get out there right now.
And you guys write. You're prolific, both as a pair and individually.
Yeah.
We love it. Like we love what we do, and I think working together, we get more excited about it even than we normally do.
And I think that's what it is. I mean, we both write fast. We both write. I mean, I don't have a hobby. Like, I mean, if I'm out with my family, I write or I read. That's all, So I mean, I'm lucky that my hobby is also, my career. So it's like, if I have spare time, that's what I do.
And
if I'm in bed at night, sometimes I still write. So I do, but I think that we are both kind of obsessive, and so sometimes like when we write together, like we could go back and especially with Weight of the World, we were really obsessed, and we could do multiple chapters in one day because it's really exciting you get something and you're like, oh my god, I never thought about that, and you totally want to play off of whatever they wrote, and so you're so excited to write it while it's fresh in your head, and then you send a chapter back, and then your family's like, will you stop talking to Devon McCormack, and his boyfriend's
They're
like,
still
I
like
hate
that.
Hart,
They're still like this for both of us.
He's like, I feel like something, I don't know.
We're in a 3-year relationship with Riley Hart. Yeah. Why can't we invite Tom then? But no, and I think that part of playing off one another that you don't get, like if I'm writing a solo book, I don't get that feedback of like I finished a great chapter that I love, and now I get to share that with someone who gets where we're going with something. Whereas like if I send a chapter to her, I get that instant feedback. Which
is exciting.
And it makes you going, even if you feel like you need to retweak things, like you have an idea of where to take things from there. You talk to someone about it. Whereas like for a solo, and it might be in edits, I'm reading chapter 6 and suddenly I'm like, something's feeling off, where she might know what's off.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and that's
it's a lot easier to fix it then instead of going back after the book.
No, absolutely. Which I do a lot.
You just mentioned your first book together, Weight of the World, that sort of experiment book, kind of just
a really good experiment.
Very serious, like
experiment. When did you just jump in with both feet and just say, "We'll see how this goes," or did
kind of talk about
the evolution of the book itself? Yeah. How did that work?
It really took on a life of its own. I mean, when we decided to write something, we didn't know what we were going to write. He had a lot of ideas, and he gave me a document, and, I went through them, and that idea immediately, it was just a few lines,
It was just a simple seed of an idea.
And, realizes the next day that the guy who talked him out of killing himself actually, committed suicide, and so he goes and seeks out his brother, and I was like, holy crap, that's incredible. Like, I wish I would have thought of that. And so I said, he was like, oh my gosh, I wish that.
And I really wanted her to pick that one.
Yeah.
Because I knew I couldn't do it on my own at the time, and it not turn out too dark. I wanted it had to be uplifting, and it had to,
even though it's
this very dark
serious,
subject. There's no point to writing it if it's just going to be this like downer. So I was like, I knew I couldn't do that on my own though at the time, and so I was like, I was really hoping that she would noticed that one. And she kind of mentioned it at first, and then she didn't say anything, so I sent her a bunch of other ideas. Mm-hmm. And then she's like, no, I'm like...
No, that's the one I want.
That's the one I want. I was like, really?
And it was really, I mean, it was really perfect because, you know, we nobody wanted to say which character we wanted at first, and then it was like, you know, I want the brother, and he's like, oh my god, I want the, you know, so that, you know, and it was very, like, it just felt, you know, Tommy was me, like, in a lot of ways, you know, feeling the responsibility for your family and, you know, wanting to caretake everybody and feeling guilt over things that you shouldn't feel guilt for. And he really, you know...
I really identified with Zach. It's the character I always say whenever people ask, that is the character I most identify with.
So I do, and I think that both of us, like, worked through things in that book. Both of us cried multiple times through that book.
Yes.
You know, and it felt really good though to go through those emotions and everything with someone, and then have this product that we were both so proud of.
But even that third POV, that was the magic POV.
No, it was, and we didn't even plan that at first because we weaved Rob's point of view, you know, in the man who had actually killed himself, you know, and so, and at first, you know, and we shared him, like, we both, to our, usually, you know, I write one character, I write the other, but we both wrote Rob's point of view in that book, and we would just throw it in at random times, so we didn't even plan
every
it,
time
but
we
those
would do
were
it,
so powerful, right?
Yeah,
I think, you know?
Absolutely, like, every time, like, and we really would, it would just be when you felt inspired. We pretty much said it like that, like, if you feel like writing that shit, just do it, or you can send it to me and I'll write it. And then, but when it would come, you just know, I felt like that, like,
that
I can, this is what I need to, it was very interesting.
That's very cool. How do you, that was the origin of the first book.
Yeah.
What's your process now? Are there ideas that bounce back and forth, or is there...
I tell my assistant to contact her assistant and see if she can set up a Skype so that we can potentially talk about if we want to work on another project together within like a 4 or 5 month time frame from now.
So basically he's too big for me now.
Whatever.
He's like, I'm done with you now.
Talk to my people. It's a process now. It's the same thing.
I mean, in a lot of ways it is. I mean, we decided to do a series, you know, of Metropolis, and then it was just like we knew we wanted something totally different from Weight of the World for the next thing that we did together. We're like, okay, we can't.
And we don't like doing the same thing in general. Like, even if you look at the Metropolis series, the books aren't the same.
No, they're not. No.
Tone wise.
Yeah, exactly. But it was very, you know, it's kind of that when it wasn't just, okay, pick an idea out of a list. So it was very like, how do we want to go about this first story? And I think we both decided we wanted to do a fake relationship, because we both like that. So we're like, okay, how do we make this work? And then we just each created our characters from there, and, you know.
That's in terms of the process, and it's always been this way, even with Way of the World. A really, like, just a long chat about our characters, like what we want to explore with our character, find out, like, kind of, that's our discovery of the characters. Goals, like what is bringing these people together, not just externally, which in like Way of the World is a good example of an obvious external thing, like the brother is the one who killed himself, so he's seeking answers through the other brother, and that's like obvious external, but what is it internally that
like what
they are
seeing?
What connects them? What makes it work? And so that, I think we always start with that core, you know, piece, and then we just work. We just kind of go and see where things are, like, we can vibe it out. You know, you get a few chapters in Owning It, which is the third in the Metropolis series. We got to a third of the way through, and we were just like,
it's not working.
But we figured out what, like, I feel like the moment like we got there, we're like, I figure out what's missing, and we talked about it, and we had a good conversation. And then you sent me this amazing first chapter that was like,
that was the only one we started over. We were just like, it's not, you know, it's not working, and we started over. We knew after we talked, and then once we did it, we were like, this is what was missing.
And the fact that we are both very quick, it makes it easy for us to not feel a lot of guilt when we're like, this isn't working, start again.
That's a DVD extra for that book. This is what it could have been.
That no one will ever see. There were some fun bits though that I missed out of it. We were talking in a panel yesterday about this. There's a guy down our hall. We call him Gun Show Ryan. And there was this whole part where like Derek's going out to a party, he runs into this guy, and he ends up going out to a party with him. And I mean, doesn't have any place in the book now. Like, I don't regret that it doesn't exist now, but it's like it was like a cute thing that at the time, at the book, for the book we were writing before it worked, for the book that we were writing after, like when we started again, it didn't work at all. Like, you couldn't have convinced me to put it in.
What was interesting about the Metropolis series for me was all of the books were fantastic, but I really liked the way the friends' stories sort of like crossed and interweaved in small pieces.
Yeah.
And so my question is, did you just have a list of these are the guys at Metropolis and these are the stories that we are going to tell, and did you seed those in the first and second books, or
we agreed that we would both be working on like side characters for potentially like using like just but kind of just vibing out naturally, who were their friends,
but
like
we did know but we didn't know, like when we started the first book though, we didn't know exactly who the second book was going to be, but we knew the third book was going to be Derek, and at that time we did not know who Derek would even be with,
but it wasn't even, did he even have a name? Like you kind of had like vibed out like you'd have this person who's kind of
no, I knew, but he didn't have a name.
We didn't have a name. Like,
not at all.
And when like I was writing the first chapter of that, and Derek was like, they're like walking home drunk, and it's Derek and Carrie, and I don't know, like, and it was their interaction that kind of made me be like, I love that friendship. Like you feel so comforted by knowing that you have someone there that you confide in and talk to, and then like. Just sort of, it's one, like, relationships are the core of a romance novel. It's great, it's that chemistry, but there's also a chemistry that happens between friends that is so delicious to watch unfold.
And that's always something that I love writing, actually.
No, absolutely.
In series. I love friendships, I love, people who are there for each other, and
we both do that a lot with our secondary characters on our solos, so I think it makes sense that once we teamed up that we kind of get obsessed with the secondary characters, and we're sitting here talking about book 3 before we even know what book 2 will be about. But for some reason, we just know it has to be book 3.
Yeah, we knew that he wouldn't be.
Like he needs more of an evolution before we get there.
Yeah.
You mentioned there's a lot of talking out and planning of the characters with their motivations and what they want. How much planning goes into the plot, or is that more organic?
You take those.
I think more organic. We're both. I think we're both very character oriented. Yeah. I'm a character writer. I am. I mean, obviously we have to have that other stuff in there, but I think that we kind of play that. We have the basic, whether it's okay, I want this to be, the fake relationship or whatever, we know those things, and we often have key scenes, but I think that you can create so much plot by your character and who they are.
If you're being honest to it, then it becomes interesting, and there becomes a plot just by the fact that there must, like, if he's a real person, he has like drama that he has to resolve, and he has like issues that he has to cope with, and what is going to come into conflict with that and make him better.
Going way back now, how did you get started writing MF? Not MF.
Well, me.
That's Hart. But what?
It's me too, but I don't have to talk about that.
What got you started to write in him?
That should be you first.
Oh, should be.
You were doing MF before. I was technically in like gay erotica and adult. I think you were MM romance first.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was always something that I wanted to write. I love writing for the male point of view. I feel more comfortable, and I'm a champion for love, I guess, and I want, so it's important to me to tell love stories that need to be told, and it just, it encompasses so many things that are important to me, and it just felt automatic that that's the route I would take, I think,
do you remember the first NN that you read?
I believe it was Faith and Fidelity by Terry Michaels, which is still one of my favorites. I love that book. So yeah, I mean, actually, I can say that outside of like beta reading, I used to beta read for my friend Kelly York, who writes, and so I would read her stuff, but traditionally published books, that would be it.
Good choice.
It's a great book. I love it.
What about you? What got you kicked off to the MM romance?
I was at the time, I think like especially like right before I started writing gay romance, I was writing like really like dirty erotica, and some young adult. Which
is funny. I know, that's what I was going to say, because I read YA too. Like,
yeah.
I read gay YA before I read MM adult romance.
And I was reading, like, gay romance, and I think it just timed really well with where I was at in my life that I, like, you know, I gotten really dark with some of my stuff and very deep. Even in the young adult, I was like, I'm just getting very dark. I was like, I kind of needed something mentally that was, like, a happy ending. That was a little more hopeful than I was doing. And so I actually wrote several of them, and then that was when we started talking about Way of the World. And it actually, I was already,
but they're
and then
sitting on his computer. He would finish one and just start another one.
I know, but I would even tell. I was showing her like my cover, like ideas for like the one I was gonna release. Before, we both had release schedules for romances already when Way of the World came out, and it kind of threw out all those plans to the side, and we just kind of went full force in. And that's the first romance that was released. And then Titan was the one I'd written before that, as well as Filthy Little Secret.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love your bio. I saw your bio on Amazon, and that last little bit about Devon writes erotic, MM romance, and young adult. Please check the blurbs to make sure of what you're getting.
I have such a hard time because I'm not ashamed of anything I write, and even the young adult I write is for an older YA audience. I'm not writing it for like a 13-year-old kid. It's like, you know, and so I think it's like a 16, 17. Like it's just YA because that is the age range that it falls into. So I'm like, but I don't like hold back like curse words or anything. But I'm obviously not like having graphic on page sex clipped or anything. But no, I don't feel ashamed of anything I write. And if there was like, if I was writing for an 8-year-old audience, obviously I'd be like, I'm gonna do this under a different name. But I just I don't ever want. I've always said I don't want to be people's author. I want people to buy me because they like the idea that I've written this time, and they're fascinated to see what I'm going to do with it. You know, not just like, oh, I hope he gives me the exact same book as last time. Like I don't like. I'm going to disappoint you if that's what you want. And I don't want to be that person who is just doing it to kind of hit X, Y, and Z. You know. Not that's a bad thing. I read people all the time who I want them to do that for me. So I don't want to diss it at all. But like there are certain others I'm like, yeah, I hope that she does X, Y, and Z. So, but anyway, yeah.
How many books do you guys together and separately put out in a year?
And that's not a good question. We were kind of talking about this earlier because this year was kind of insane. We won't be able.
We're not doing this again.
No, so. And I think that it just everything kind of spiraled.
Yeah.
We were so excited, and there was so much to do that everything kind of got out of control this year. And we put out a lot of books, but I think that both of us might go a little crazy if we wrote that much every year. You know, it was a lot, but we had a lot of fun with it. It's not even just about the writing;
it's about the other stuff we have to do to get the book out. That's a lot of work, and so it's like. It's one thing to write a book very quickly. It's another to try and like then get everyone to come together and all the people. You know, you have editors with deadlines. You have them with their schedules.
Yeah. Because in our
covers.
his stuff by himself has to come first. So
that's
my
the
stuff
thing.
by myself has to come first too. You know, like so.
It's all about priorities in that regard, and then you're like, well, where does that leave us with the next project and stuff like that?
Where do you see the next year going?
You got yours all scheduled out. Yours is easy.
Well, no.
You have a good outline.
Well, I will have at least the next Last Chance book, After Depth of Field, and the third Wildside book, and whatever we're doing next. And likely one more, with probably Christina maybe. So. We have an idea.
What's it like between your two writing partners?
We hate each other. No, we don't.
That's so completely obvious.
Like how? What do you mean?
Well, in terms of your processes and dynamics between the two.
That's kind of a question. I
am curious about this.
Well, no, I think that. Devon and I are more obsessive in like the way we write than Christina and I are together. So, you know, I think we write a lot faster, so we finish a book a lot faster. And I think Christina and I do a little more, you know, plotting and figuring things out, and like scene wise, we don't sit down and plot the whole book, you know, but we do like sections. Okay, we're gonna kind of get this. These are the next few scenes and chapters that we, you know, to make sure that it gets us to this next place, and kind of we just go, you know, but it works,
It does.
you know, and I think
fun.
it keeps it, you know.
Sometimes we'll ask, we'll be like, should we plot some things out? And we're like,
Let's just
I
go after it.
kind of want to see what you do with this. Like, I don't want to like help. I want you to just kind of show me where it goes.
And what about you? What's next year look like?
October re-released a book, Clipped, which is like a paranormal erotic adventure. It's just this wild, crazy story. And I'm releasing the sequel and the final installment, one in November, one in December. And then I have a lot of other projects that I don't usually like to tell people that, like, about what I'm working on.
But I'm the one that keeps secrets.
I just no. I have books finished that I am working on releasing, and I have to decide like how I want to release them, which ones kind of come first. So, but I know there will be books.
Lots and lots of
Is there more for you this year? We talked about next year. Do you have stuff coming out before?
I do. The end of November will be the Jared's Fulfillment, which is the second to Jared's Evolution, which just came out with Gone Rogue when he did that.
Mm-hmm. And we did that with Ella Frank and Brooke Blaine. They did a book called Shiver, which is a very.
We were all like doing something. We all did something that is different from the norm.
Yeah,
of what we
would
typically
write.
write. That's what Gone Rogue was
yeah.
for us, writing something different from what we
Yeah.
had been releasing, and it was fun.
And kind of being able to kind of get people excited about
it's
these
just something
different
new
ideas.
And totally,
yeah.
you know.
Yeah, the getting the four authors together in that way
Uh-huh.
was unique to anything I've seen. I mean, there's always authors coming together to
Yeah.
do kind of one thing or another, but this seemed unique in that
It
space.
seemed
It was
lucky
like-
that we
no,
all,
so
the
felt-
timing of it was bizarre because we all were working on something that was
without
the same.
each other
yeah.
knowing at first. I mean, like he knew what I was
Yeah.
working on, but we didn't know what they were working on,
Yeah.
and we were all
And they're-
writing or working on
Yes.
something totally different at the same time. And so then we realized we're kind of like, okay, we got to do something
Yeah.
with this. You know, it was really cool how it all happened.
It really was, and it was a lot, and it was exciting to get to share that because you know we talk about even like co-writing is nice because you get to share that with someone when you release it. Like you get to kind of be excited with somebody about that, and it was nice with this because we all kind of had like something at stake. We all had something like like a different direction that we were going where we got to be kind
So
of
when
like.
everybody hates us, we're together.
Like, we're together to the end. And then, but it was nice. That was like, we all were so thrilled. We loved these projects. Like, each of us were so excited
much.
and stoked. And it was one of those things where you're like, you know what? I just want to do it and just see what happens. And it
I
was.
think you just have to follow your heart like that, and write what you feel, whether it's different from what you've done before. I think it's really important, and I think readers like that. They like at first they'd be like, oh my gosh, what did you do? But I think that they appreciate it eventually because it is, it's staying true to who you are and your characters and your muse, and I don't think you can really ask for
And neither of us are the type of people who feel like readers need to read everything. If they see something,
and that's what I said. If this is not your thing, I would
then
rather
stay-
skip.
yeah,
That's okay.
yeah.
Like
Skip
you don't
this
because
one.
you like my books, you don't have to read it. Hopefully, you'll just pick up the next one.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a big thing that I think authors get, like, oh my God, they didn't buy this book.
And that was from the beginning. I would rather, if it's not your thing, that's fine. I would rather you not, because for me, like, when you read, you want to read something or you think you're gonna like. You want to read something you think you're gonna enjoy. It's your escapism or whatever.
Yes.
So I would never want them to read it just because I wrote it because they think they should or whatever. So.
Speaking of GRL, we should ask, how have you enjoyed this year's?
It's been a lot of fun.
It's been really fun.
I've enjoyed it
Crazy.
a lot. Lots of people.
Busier this year than last year for sure.
For sure.
And like just the energy is really high and like everybody's really thrilled and it's nice to see everyone this is every year, but I feel like this year you can just kind of feel that relief in people of like you found your people and you're able
That's
to.
my favorite thing.
You can even when they just
book
approach
people,
you, you can just like this like, oh, I can talk to you about
You're not a
this.
book person, you don't get book
No.
people. I don't
No.
think, I mean, in a lot of
It's
ways,
true.
so it's like people in my personal life are like, books,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
they don't get like how passionate we are
Yes.
and how much
Yeah.
we love this. So it's, we're like my people.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that will about do it. Unless do you have anything extra to throw in or
No.
burning questions?
No, before we go, I want you to tell everyone where they can find you online. Because you're especially wacky one.
I don't know what you're talking about. I do not know which you're referring to. I'm on Facebook. Facebook.com/Devon.McCormack.79.
Riley Hart on Facebook. I don't have mine memorized, so it's probably just Riley Hart. Riley Hart writes actually.
Yeah, that's what it's like.
You knew you were gonna say that, did you know?
I was gonna interrupt you and be like I did the panel yesterday when I was like, that's not the character you love most.
People would not realize how much like he keeps me on track. So, like he's the scheduled one. Like
Yeah,
he has
scheduled.
and I'm like, when do we have to do this? And he's like, oh, I just told you like 2 days ago. And I'm like, what?
Instead to go and like stealing swag from to be like, I need
No,
this
but
on my table.
we each have,
Yeah.
exactly. I'm like,
Right.
do you have swag? He's like, no.
Like,
And I'm like,
what?
do you need a marker? Do you need this?
Like,
I'm
yes,
giving up.
Like,
So it works.
no, it's nice.
We will link to all the websites and the
Yeah.
social and the books and the whatnot. And thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. It
No,
was
thank
pretty
you for
awesome.
having
Thank
us.
you. I had fun.
Really appreciated it.
So there was so much goodness with Devon and Riley that we've actually got like a 15-minute bonus reel with the episode that you can catch on YouTube on the show notes page, or if you're doing this on a podcast catcher, you'll see it in your episode feed. In this bonus, we talk about the difference in their writing styles between co-writing and solo projects. There's why they go the self-publishing route, why owning it was so fun to write, and that's actually a really fun sequence right there. And what's up with their surprise book release strategy. So check that out as the bonus to this episode.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, I think that'll wrap it up for this week. Coming up in episode 113, Brandolin will be back with some book recommendations as we kick off, thank you, a series of shows talking with our contributors as we wrap up 2017 and roll into the new year.
Can you believe we're rolling into the new year?
Oy vey.
4 weeks to go.
It's coming so fast. Anyway, guys, no matter where life takes you, the journey will always be sweeter when you have a book. Until next time, everyone, please keep turning those pages and keep reading.
For detailed show notes and the complete episode backlist, go to biggayfictionpodcast.com. New episodes are available every Monday on all major podcast distributors and YouTube. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.